Hey guys, Chris from Hockey Tutorial here, and today you join us in Lucerne, Switzerland. We've been invited here by a company called Glice, who are a synthetic ice manufacturer based here. What I wanted to do in this video is share a little bit of insight into the world of synthetic from Glice's perspective, and show you some unreal home setups that we found while we've been here in Switzerland. The world of synthetic ice is definitely something that is on the up. The ability to set up your own custom training space at your own home that you can use whenever you want is something that pretty much every hockey player would want. So what I wanted to do in this video is show you a little bit more about Glice, a bit of insight into what the performance of their panels are like, the cost, some of the customization options that they have, and of course my feedback on essentially first impressions of what it feels like to skate on one of their panels. Let's get into it. Now the first location that we got to go to was a place called Untitled in Switzerland. We went to the home of Ellie and Steffi, who were in the middle of the process of having bought their synthetic, having it delivered and set up. Now of course Ellie and Steffi have the benefit of living here in Switzerland, so they were lucky enough to have the guys from Glice come to their home and set up their synthetic surface for them. But this isn't something that you need assistance with. The surface is incredibly easy to set up. It's a case of laying down a base layer on the surface of where you want your synthetic rink to be, laying out the panels, clipping them into place, and getting started. It's nice and simple, doesn't take too long if you have some help. Now watching the setup process, it was really cool to see that Glice's synthetic panels lock together in a female-male kind of system. We've seen some other synthetic surfaces that lock together in a puzzle style. The issue with this is the surface that you're on, if it's not completely, and I mean completely flat, you get lips, you get bumps, the surface is effectively unskateable. We've seen this many times, so it's always good when you see panels that interlock together and then are essentially held together by a bolt made of the same material that the panels are made from. This means that there's no movement, there's no warping regardless of what kind of surface that you're on if it's not completely perfectly flat, which is a benefit. A big question that always comes up with synthetic ice sheets or home rinks is how difficult is it to maintain? Now the surfaces from Glice are pretty straightforward. It's just a case of keeping the surface clean, as you would expect. You're using your hockey skates on there, so the last thing that you want is to have any debris or dirt that you wouldn't typically find in an ice rink. So all you need to do for this is either vacuum or sweep before you use the surface, just to make sure it's clean every time you get on it. That's pretty much it. Now, of course, the big one is, what does it feel like to skate on? Something that I always like to say is that synthetic is just that, it's synthetic, it's not ice. So if you're expecting to step onto a synthetic panel and get the exact same feeling, sensation that you get when you're on the ice, that's not gonna happen because it isn't ice. But it is the closest thing that you will get to being able to get on the ice anytime that you want and being able to set it up in a custom space however you want. You're able to practice pretty much everything from tight turns, crossovers, quick starts and stops, but most importantly, you're able to get on the surface with your skates that you use in a game with the right stick at the right height to be able to make sure that all of the things that you're practicing at home on your custom setup is going to be the exact same when you step out onto the ice. I was lucky enough to be able to play with Steffi and Ellie's two sons on the panel. It was a lot of fun, and the second you get started, you let your blades warm up a little bit, you quickly forget that you're on synthetic, and you just focus on what you're doing, which is playing the game, and that's the best part. When training doesn't feel like training, that's the best way to do it.
started to. They not one or two. Now my stack was two. Look at all the gas I put.
Now, the second location that we went to definitely caught us off guard. I'm not even going to try and sugarcoat it. This home on the terrace, the view, it was incredible. It's essentially what you picture when you think about Switzerland, so it was epic to be able to go there and film a video. Now, this was Ennetbruggen, the location in Switzerland, and it was the home of Court, who had set up easily one of the most spectacular synthetic setups I've ever seen in my life. Now, this was a really good example of being able to use the synthetic to the best of its ability and the best of your ability, because this surface was completely flat. Now, that had a massive impact on what the synthetic felt like. At the first location, the synthetic still felt great, but at the second location, it felt phenomenal because it was on a completely flat, hard surface. Going backwards, tight turns, quick starts and stops. In terms of the edge control, how it felt, it was incredible. It was almost effortless, which was something that I hadn't really experienced on synthetic. Going backwards always required a bit more work, a bit more leaning on the balls of your feet to make sure that you wouldn't topple over while you were going backwards. But crossing over backwards, crossing over forwards, quick turns, they felt sensational on this surface. Easily one of the best experiences that I've ever had away from the ice, which was epic. Now, in terms of what it felt like when I was stopping and doing kind of those more intricate movements on the ice, stopping was one of the ones that felt a little bit different to some of the other synthetic panels that I felt. Now, not to say that it felt bad. I think one of the big impacts for this was the fact that there was a lot of sunlight. It was incredibly hot that day. If you can't tell from some of the footage of me playing, being completely caked in sweat, that kind of shows you. It was super, super hot. And that had an effect where the synthetic was a little bit warmer than it would typically be, which meant that stopping was a little bit softer than it would typically be. But aside from that, it was a phenomenal experience being able to skate there and play there. And once you get your head into the game, the movements that you're able to make on the synthetic quickly mimic that you're able to do on the ice. In terms of quick crossovers, quick turns, everything felt natural. I didn't have to think that I was on synthetic. I needed to be a little bit more cautious because I might catch an edge and fall over. Everything felt phenomenal, and we were able to play a really intense game of 2-on-2 hockey. Of course, there's always going to be a bit more friction when you're on synthetic, which is great because when you transfer back onto the ice, skating feels even more effortless. So you are going to be working the muscles in your legs a little bit harder on synthetic, but when you step out onto the ice, you're going to see the benefits of that. So these surfaces as a whole are incredible. If you're able to set up a good space, a nice flat space, even if it's not completely flat, you're still going to have a great experience. But if the surface underneath the synthetic is flat and hard, you're going to have a phenomenal experience. Now, of course, I'm not going to leave you guys hanging in terms of the price. The way Glice do it is that they like to set up complete setups. So essentially you pick a setup, you purchase that, and you have everything that you need to be able to get training and get playing on the synthetic home setup. Now, the prices range from $1,000 anywhere up to $15,000. It really depends on what you want, what kind of a setup you're after. But of course, the links will be down below in the video description for you to go to Glice's website and get more insight into what they offer. And of course, find out a bit more about custom setups if you have unique requirements or needs. But as always, a big thank you for watching this video. If you need any more information, all of the links will be down below in the video description. Make sure that you stay tuned because we're also going to be visiting Glice's elite hockey training facility in Davos here in Switzerland. I can't wait to share the video on that. But make sure you check out the links in the description below. Subscribe, thumbs up, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.